Good afternoon to all the viewers at home and those who are listening from all the audio systems. As part of the government's commitment of updating the nation on the ongoing issues of the country, we will today request the Minister in the Presidency, Minister Ntshavheni, to give us the latest briefing. Minister.
Good afternoon. On the security situation, stability continues to reign in both provinces of Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, and law enforcement agencies are conducting mop-up operations to ensure that opportunistic and copycat activities do not find traction. On arrest of instigators, In addition to the arrest of persons linked to the public violence and their appearances in various courts, law enforcement agencies continue to arrest persons linked to the incitement of public violence. To date, the following suspects have been arrested and appeared in court: Bruce Nimerhout, Sposiso Mavuso, Clarence Tabane, Ngizwe Mchunu. All have been remanded in custody in Gauteng for bail application, and the National Prosecuting Authority will comment further on the details of the prosecution. One person who was arrested was released by the court, and the SAPS are undertaking further investigations. And another suspect was granted bail by the court. Investigations on the deaths. Since the unrest, a total of 234 deaths as related to the unrest were reported in KZN. To date, and of these reported deaths, the SAPS are investigating 151 cases of murder, and 83 inquest dockets have been opened, and 15 arrests related to the cases of murder have been made. A total of 42 deaths as related to the unrest were reported in Gauteng. To date, and of these reported deaths, the SAPS are investigating 17 cases for murder, and 25 cases are still at an inquest stage, and no arrests have been made as yet. On measures to ensure food security in South Africa and the SADC region, since the unrest of the last 2 weeks, concerns have also been raised about food security in the SADC region, as a number of our neighboring countries also rely on South Africa ports for their imports of food and critical supplies. We want to reassure the region of SADC that law enforcement agencies have posted extra security personnel along the major routes to ensure the secure passage of long-haul logistics trucks and the rail network. We were informed by the South African National Road Agency Limited, commonly known as SANRAL, that over 9,000 trucks were moving on the N3 without any incidents against the logistics trucks. In addition, we have reported on the full operation of the 2 ports of Durban and Richards Bay, and we must reiterate that the other ports were never affected by the unrest. All activities at the port of Durban, specifically agricultural ones, have normalized and were in full operation since the start of this week. The only delays at the ports are due to the backlogs that were caused by the closure of the during the period of the unrest. Furthermore, our border posts are also working around the clock to process the logistics trucks so that they can reach their destinations safely and on time. With regard to additional measures which were put in place to address the concerns of food security in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, government has engaged food processors and suppliers, farmers and agribusinesses to ensure that the stability of the food supply chain. Importantly, government and social partners secured the logistics centers where community can easily access food. As I speak today, the security of food supplies have been normalized mainly across the affected provinces. And the efforts include all the shopping malls, supermarkets and spaza shops that have not been affected by the unrest were operational since Saturday, 17th of July, 2021. Bakeries have also been operational, and bread, which was in short supply in KwaZulu-Natal, has been on the shelves since the weekend. Milk supplies are also now available, and depots have been open for farmers who are bringing their supplies. Sugar mills have been operational since Saturday, 17th of July, 2021, and the farmers have been able to move their canes to the mills. In KwaZulu-Natal, where damage to retail infrastructure is most severe, municipalities have been working together with their business communities to ensure that food availability is maintained. Where necessary, municipalities have made their facilities part of the value chain. Other shop owners in certain rural towns have converted additional facilities to ensure that these are made grocery shops to address the food availability challenge and the long queues that we have all witnessed. Concerns on the possible resurgence of attacks on foreign truck drivers, government has continued to engage the major role players in the logistics and transportation sector to find a lasting solution to the problems raised by the stakeholders. Our law enforcement agencies are also investigating the possible mobilization of South Africans to attack the foreign truck drivers, and a special team of detectives are investigating the threats against foreign truck drivers. It must be clarified that this problem is not emanating from the unrest, but it is related to the challenges within the sector itself. The Interministerial Committee on Immigration and Employment will soon table their recommendation to Cabinet for a decision on how to mitigate the problem in the sector. On affected SASSA offices and post offices for the payment of social grants, which we reported to yesterday. After the violence and the looting, 20 SASSA local offices and 21 post offices in KwaZulu-Natal were vandalized and burnt down. These offices are not offering social services, and beneficiaries have been advised to use ATMs and shops to access their social grants. Furthermore, SASSA grants that were earmarked to be paid on the 20th of July have been postponed to a later date. That is in KZN. In Gauteng, one SASSA office located in Alexander was burnt down, and beneficiaries have been referred to an alternative site. This is of great concern to us as government because it has great impact on the most vulnerable who will not be able to access their social support from SASSA timely. On education and health infrastructure, as announced by the President, the schools are scheduled to reopen on the 26th of July, and the Department of Basic Education is proceeding with plans for the reopening of schools. To date, there were 143 schools which were vandalized and looted during the unrest. 139 of these schools are in KwaZulu-Natal and 4 are in Gauteng. Equipment and food meant for the school nutrition program were stolen, which means that these schools are unable to provide the school nutrition program to their vulnerable learners. The Minister of Basic Education will brief the nation on the preparedness for the reopening of schools on Sunday, 25th July 2021. The Department of Health is finalizing the assessment report on the extent of the impact of the recent violence in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal on the vaccination rollout program and general access to health services. Acting Health Minister Mamuluko Kubai will present a comprehensive update on Friday, this weekend, during the weekly health updates. Meeting between the President and business leaders. On the 20th of July, President Ramaphosa convened a meeting of over 100 business leaders to discuss the current security crisis and assess the impact on business infrastructure and operations across the various economic sectors. The meeting discussed areas where government and business could work together to rebuild the country in the aftermath of the crisis. The President was joined by the premiers of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng and several ministers of the economic cluster. The business sector was represented by organized business, including those representing informal businesses and SMMEs, and CEOs from various sectors of business. In the meeting, business leaders and government committed to rebuilding the country and ensuring that poverty and inequality are addressed speedily, and business leaders and government further committed to assist small businesses that were already negatively affected by the downturn in the economy as a result of the pandemic. Business leaders also said that in their engagements with their international counterparts, they will communicate a message that South Africa was rising to rebuild and to do business with the rest of the world. President Ramaphosa called for a partnership with a shared national purpose among all role players now and in the years ahead. The meeting agreed on the need to rebuild an economy that is far more resilient, sustainable, dynamic, and inclusive. We want to reassure, as I conclude, all South Africans and the SADC region and the international community that the situation in our country is now stable and economic activities have returned to normal. We want to thank the SADC community and the international community for their support to us through this difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the update. Minister, as usual, we will take a batch of questions that has been sent to the group. But first, I will take any questions that might be inside the press room, and you identify yourself and the media house, and you go for your question. Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Tsehohato Moagi from Newsroom Africa. I just want to know if there has been an increase in COVID-19 cases, if it has been seen at all in any of the affected areas because of the large crowds that we did see in those areas. And we saw that the DSD and the Police and Correctional Center, they are now vaccinating as well. But how has that process gone for the Department of Social Development, especially in the affected areas as well? Was there a pause at some point, and has it restarted? And also with the police, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I go for the questions on our WhatsApp? Takalani, can you take us through the questions, please?
Thank you. Today we only received 7 questions. Those are the questions that we have for now. If maybe we can take them all with your kind permission, or we can take them 5 by 2.
I think let us take 7 of them all.
Thank you very much. The first question is from Linda from Business Day, and the question is: have the law enforcement agencies identified the masterminds behind the insurrection, and are any of them prominent members of the ANC? Why have they not been arrested? As it seems, only low-level instigators have been taken in. And the second question from Marvin Adams, the question is: what is the cost of the deployment, and when is the social cluster expected to report on social relief grant? And Linda again from Business Day, the President Cyril Ramaphosa has acknowledged that the law enforcement agencies were slow to react. What were the reasons for this? And also, how does this statement align with the statement by Minister Ntshavheni that the law enforcement agencies reacted timeously? And there's a question from Yanis Roberts from Media 24. Does the government have a strategy for withdrawal of the army eventually? And how do you make a risk assessment that the underlying threat is removed in order to eventually withdraw the army? And there's a question from Sophie Mukwena from the SABC. And they said that there are reports that a South African president was among the world leaders who were selected as potential targets of intelligence activities conducted by NSO spyware. Is SSA looking into this issue, and what is the reaction of the presidency? Our second last question from Spelele from Business Report. The question is: when is the next NCCC meeting? Are we likely to see the sale of alcohol being allowed again from next week, since the third wave of COVID-19 infections is leveling off in the country, and the alcohol industry is reeling from a lack of sales due to restrictions, and now stocks have been plundered in KZN and Gauteng? And the last question from Lizek from Mail and Guardian. It says: the minister, can you share if the deputy president remains in Russia, and can you share what is his condition, and if the country is footing the bill for his medical treatment? Back to you, and thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions. Minister, those are the batch of questions that we have for now. I hope we won't have another set of questions unless if they are follow-up questions. Minister?
Thank you for the questions. I hope there are no follow-up questions. Increase of COVID-19 cases in affected provinces. What we are aware of, but Minister Kubayi will do a briefing on Friday, but what we are currently aware of is that in Gauteng, work is continuing for vaccination and testing, but in KZN, the situation has been difficult to continue with the testing and vaccination under the conditions that they were in. So I don't think at this stage, and the minister will communicate that on Friday in the normal health updates sessions that she hosts, that we host her on. but I don't think it would be fair for me to speculate on that. And this relates to the question, the assumption that the cases have reduced in the country. You may be finding that it may be an underreporting given the numbers of KZN that have not come through. So it would be too early for me to predict whether we're seeing a decrease in the numbers. In other provinces, of course, outside of KZN, the numbers are decreasing. In Gauteng, the numbers are decreasing as we receive the statistics every day from the National Institute for Communicable Diseases. But in KZN, I think the numbers are not a true reflection of the situation on the ground. It's for those who are presenting themselves in healthcare centers or clinics as they become sick. So you don't know what is happening to the other part of the community. And you asked the question of whether vaccination of DSD and correctional services, how have it gone? Minister Lamula has been very thrilled to say at least he doesn't have to worry about a community infection within the prisons, given the large population that remains in our prison. And that work to vaccinate inmates continues as we vaccinate other South Africans. And I just need to commend the ones who are now known as the national group, those between 35 and 49, for the massive response to not only registration but to the vaccination. And they are glad that their government has moved fast to make sure that they are vaccinated as soon as they started to register. And we are encouraging them, because they are the second largest population group in the country, 12.1 million of them. We're encouraging them to move quickly to get vaccinated so that we can move to the next cohort and maybe prevent the fourth wave from reaching us, but also flatten the curve of the third wave quick enough. In terms of the questions that have been, there's a question around when is the NCCC meeting. The NCCC will meet, I think, this Sunday to consider matters on for whether we, what are the interventions that require to be done, and whether we open this and we don't open that. I do not want to preempt the decision of the NCCC in terms of the discussions and the reports that will be submitted by the relevant structures such as the Net Joints and the Department of Health and the other departments that are party to the work of the NCCC. And therefore, I will not have a comment or venture an opinion on the sale of alcohol. And on whether the government is cabinet is discussing reintroduction of special COVID-19 distress grant or basic income grant, and why is this being discussed now? I think the basic income grant discussion has not started now. The basic income grant has started from the governing party when they were saying, how do we sustainably support South Africans who are not able to earn an income, and what are the interventions? So those discussions have not started now. They have always been underway. And when we look as government, and I've confirmed that government is discussing possible interventions to assist communities, households, and businesses that have been affected not only by the unrest, but also by the impact of COVID-19. Most of them did not recover from the impact of the second wave, the first and second wave, and when we went to the third wave, the situation became dire, and we had already started working on a package of measures for the intervention. And whether the social relief grant will come back, I will not want to venture and preempt cabinet decision on the proposals that are on the table from either social partners or from either ourselves as government ministers. We need to allow cabinet to make the decision and get the state president to respond or report on those decisions. And on our reaction to the as the presidency on the allegation that our president was part of the list of world leaders selected for possible intelligence targets by NSO spyware. Of course, we will not be happy that we have been targeted, because we believe that that infringes not only on the privacy of the person of the president, but also infringes on the sovereignty of this country to make its own decisions without other countries trying to find or to preempt those decisions and influence them, and also trying to undermine those decisions. of course, if you read the report, they were not saying that was actioned. So the state security agencies will have to look at whether that the targeting resulted in the actioning, whether the phone of the president was tampered with. The state security will have to do that part and give us a report. But we are not happy, but for the mere fact that we are targeted, and it's a pity that that report comes now when relations are improving within the region, and we do not want to get to a state of distrust within members of the SADC community, and we are hoping we'll work together with fellow SADC members to protect and respect the sovereignty of individual states, and will not use unacceptable means to find information. There are always diplomatic channels to find information on decisions of South Africa. The next question was, can I share if the deputy president is still in Russia, and share what is his condition and if it's the country is footing the bill for his medical treatment? I think we also need to respect the privacy of the person, of the deputy president. Yes, the deputy president is in Russia, he's undergoing medical treatment, and he is doing well, and he will return. That's as far as I can report to South Africans, and not infringe his persons, because nobody can disclose the health condition of another. Even yourself as a journalist does not make you have a right to probe into a personal health status of any other person, irrespective of the position they hold. What you are entitled to know is the fact that whether your leadership is healthy and fit for purpose, and we are confirming that the deputy president has received his treatment, or is receiving his treatment, and he has responded to treatment, and he will soon return to the country. And there was a question whether government has a strategy to withdraw the army eventually, and how do we make a risk assessment that the underlying threats is removed in order to eventually withdraw the army. I think all South Africans are aware that it is not our first deployment of the army in South Africa to stabilize one situation or the other. The army was deployed in Cape Town, in Western Cape, to stabilize the violent unrest in Western Cape. Now they've been deployed in KZN and Gauteng and across the country. The army was deployed to help assist with the management of the COVID-19 pandemic when it first hit us, and there has always been withdrawal, and the situation had gone back to normal. So there should not be something new in that. We should trust that the military have a plan on how they withdraw and what the assessments are, and we cannot share those details because those details are part of the security of this country. There was somebody who asked about a question of people who have been arrested for murder, saying there's one person. We have reported that 15 persons, suspects, have been arrested for murder in KZN, for the cases related to murder in KZN. I cannot venture to say those murders are specific to Chatworth and Phoenix, but there are 15 people who have been arrested to the cases of murder, and the details will be available with the National Prosecuting Authority. I'm sure, because I see it's an international correspondent, I'm sure we can help them link up with the National Prosecuting Authority so that they can get the details from them. And there's an allegation that says, Minister Ntshavheni, how does this statement align with the statement that Minister Ntshavheni has said law enforcement agencies responded timelessly? I think we should not make unfounded allegations. To refresh all our memory, you may ask ENCA for the record of their interview with me at Jabulani Mall, where I indicated that we were slow to respond. But we have now catch up, and we are timelessly dealing with the matter. So let's not create, find smoke where there's no fire, because it's not, you cannot quote and create suspicions amongst us and contradictions which are not there. There is a record of me quoting almost speaking almost word to word to what the president has indicated. So, and I'm telling you where I've made that statement, and you can ask them for the record so that you don't create records that are not there, because records are factual, they are not imaginary. And you've asked, when is the social cluster going to brief about the social grant, and you've also inquired about the cost of the deployment. The social cluster will brief, as we have indicated, that basic education will brief on the school reopening and the measures they will do to make sure that schooling continues and school nutrition programs continue. And also we have indicated that the economic cluster will brief on the intervention measures that are inclusive of the whole country and not of the whole government, to say how we're responding, and the president will announce the measures, and responsible ministers will then come and brief on that on those measures. We are hoping that we should have the package of measures done quickly for consideration of cabinet, if possible, special cabinet of this weekend. And this, I've indicated on our obsession with the cost of deployment, to say allow the military to find themselves and execute on the work that is at hand. When that deployment has been completed, and there's a number that has been submitted to the Joint Standing Committee on Defense, and that number would want to keep it at that committee. And when they've done that, we'll come and say, this is what has costed us to deploy the military, and explain what has to be explained. But we said to yourself, the most important thing for this government is the safety and security of South Africans. And the last question is the question on whether law enforcement agencies have identified masterminds behind the insurrection, and any of them prominent members of the ANC. Why have they not been arrested, as it seems only low-level instigators have been undertaken? As indicated, the law in this country does not treat you because of the position you hold, because of the level or of class that you belong to, or other because of your membership to a political party. The law in this country, it's applied blindly. It without fear, without favor. So law enforcement agencies are working to make sure that all instigators and masterminds behind this attempt at an insurrection in our country are brought to book. And when they are arrested, we'll announce their arrests, and when they've appeared in court, we'll announce their names. And it doesn't matter whether they are members of the ANC, whether they are members of the EFF, whether they are members of the DA or FF Plus or whatever, they will be arrested. Or whether they are ordinary South Africans or they are high-profile South Africans, they will be arrested. So let's not want to make our law enforcement agency have eyes. Their only eyes is for justice, is not eyes for discrimination or segregation of people because of where they belong and who they are members, which party they are members of. We are all equal before the law. This is 25 years of our constitution. That constitution guarantees us equality before the law and equal treatment before the law and application of the law without fear and without favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think we have done well in terms of the questions, but I'll just check an indication if we have this one very clear will be the very, very last bite on the questions. Tagalani, you can read us the last.
No, thank you. The questions that we now received, one is from Lizeka, from Mail and Guardian. And the question is, Minister, can you share if there are any updates on the investigation related to the stolen ammunition? And have you made any arrests with regards to this? And what was the motive for the stolen ammunition? And we have a question from Siyanda Ndlovu from the Citizen. And the question is, it said, I would like to ask if government has not thought about auctioning the looted goods and taking the money to help affected small business or small businesses in communities. And Sianda's second question is, does the government really believe that a layman like Ngizwe Mqunu is capable of such a well-orchestrated plot to distract economy and create governance chaos of such magnitude? And it would be understandable if he is charged for inciting violence, but to call him one of the masterminds, is there any evidence to that? And the last two questions are from Aseri Ndlovu from Tshwane Capital. And the first question is, with reports of bodies found after the civil unrest, do we know who those people are? Have the bodies been identified, and are they all South Africans? And his second question, he said himself, Aseri said, he traveled to Libombo border post and he saw a number of parcels not allowed to cross the border. And the question is, do we know what happened or what will happen to those items taken during Operation Keep a Receipt? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions. I know there have been a request for the speech in the statement. Once we are done with the press briefing, colleagues will have the statement on all our platforms. Minister, this was the very last batch of questions, and we thank you very much. You can answer the last ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The first question was that it was from Lizeka from Mail and Guardian, and the question is, Minister, can you share if there are any updates on the investigation related to the stolen ammunition, and have you made any arrests with regards to this, and what was the motive for the stolen ammunition? Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. And maybe just to clarify, if you recall when there was a debate of whether there is an insurrection or an attempted insurrection, part of the clarity was because there was a target to go and steal ammunition at a particular depot. And therefore, that is the basis of which we said this is part of a plan to undermine the authority of this state. And the investigations around the stolen ammunition continues, but you should recall that there are other ammunitions that have been recovered, and when that is completed and arrests are made, we will make that announcement. So what we'll take from here is that we must, when the arrest for the ammunitions, those who stole ammunitions is made, we must then communicate that specifically as we are communicating the other arrests. And on the other two questions of whether a layman like Ngizwe Mqunu is capable of a well-orchestrated plot to distract the economy, I've indicated yesterday, and I'd like to repeat it today, that it is not my place as a minister in the presidency acting to determine what the prosecution and law enforcement authorities deem as low level and high level. It is their space to deem and to gather the evidence and make an arrest and mount a prosecution, and that's what has happened. Whether he is the mastermind, I cannot venture to that, but all South Africans will be here to follow the case and adjudicate for ourselves when the matter unfolds in the court. And whether the auctioning of looted goods and taking the money to assist affected small businesses in communities. What we what we thought we should do, but I'm going to respond, but what we thought we should do is that this question, which arose even yesterday and is causing a lot of debate in the country, it indicates that our people do not understand what are the things that impacts the economy. The stolen goods are no different from counterfeit products, and that's why we destroy them. Because if the goods are stolen or they are counterfeit, it means the manufacturers of those goods, the ones who sell those goods, are not going to generate an income from those goods that enables them to pay employees to continue with their businesses. So let's say, for example, 10,000 television sets have been stolen. I'm just giving a number. And those 10,000 television sets are donated or are auctioned at a cheaper value because it's no longer brand new. They are auctioned for 1,000 rands, and initial price of a television set is 4,000 rands. Multiply the 10,000 by 4,000 and calculate the loss and that is made by that business, and they've lost other customers. The fact that 10,000 people will buy the television sets at a cheaper price or from the sale price or not even less than the stock price, it will mean that money is not available for the manufacturer and the employees of those companies to then continue to operate as a business, but to also pay employment. But that money is also lost from the tax revenue because nobody is going to pay tax for that. But if you then do a destruction like we do with counterfeit products, you are making sure that the manufacturers can continue it can go back and recoup the cost of the loss of the manufacturing, remanufacture other products and make them available for sale in the market. We benefit in terms of tax. The companies continue to operate and they're able to employ more people or able to pay salaries for their workers. And that is the basic economics. And that's why we continue to plead with South Africans that beyond the stolen goods, even with counterfeit goods, when you buy counterfeit goods at cheap prices, you are costing the economy, not only in terms of tax revenue, but in terms of those companies, and majority of those companies are small businesses, by the way. And those companies are not going to be able to resell at that value because you have just diminished the value of the product, and majority of those companies will not be able to make profit and therefore will not be able to continue to pay their employees. And that's the clarity we need to provide to South Africans. But because it's a debate that is going on in the country and it's important for us to have that national dialogue, we will organize through the GCIS a national conversation with panel of experts, economists and social partners to come and have that conversation so that South Africans can understand the impact on the economy, so that when there is pressure to say go and auction, go and do that, we all understand the consequences for the economy. But those goods, if you put them in the market, you are going to cause damage to the economy and its recovery. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. This brings us to the end of this daily update. We promise South Africans that we will keep you updated, and the press briefing is adjourned. And thank you very much.